Joining us now on the Rich Eisen Show once again is best-selling author and ESPN senior writer Seth Wickersham. How are you, Seth?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm jealous. You got to spend all that time with Sean Payton, one of the most interesting men in the National Football League. Jealous.
He was awesome. I visited him in Idaho for a couple of days, and then in Denver for training camp for a couple of days, and he's an entertaining guy. He was an entertaining guy. There's no doubt.
Well, and again, your piece begins with an italic paragraph or two, flashback to the night that Peyton won the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and it kind of does inform quite a bit about Sean Payton trying to find that next one. Why do you think he took this job? Is it the Walmart money? What I mean, honestly, why do you think Sean Payton said yes to this one, Seth?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He told me that he got so tired in New Orleans of feeling like he couldn't win a jump ball in the league. I think that since Bountygate happened, he's been suspicious of the NFL and everything the league does, from officiating to memos to investigations. And I think that even though he rebounded well the team rebounded well, I think that after he lost that NFC Championship game with that no call on the pass interference, I think it scarred him on a deep level. And I think that when he walked away from New Orleans, remember, he was never going to retire. He was going to go to a different team that he felt the league was more invested in their success. And it's a really, really interesting idea and goal, right? That the league would play favorites like that. But I think that after all his time in New Orleans, he was exhausted on an existential level, and coming to Denver, an iconic franchise that hasn't, won a playoff game since the Super Bowl almost a decade ago. I think he felt like that the league was more invested in their success. And as he told me, he thought he could get a jump ball here and there.
Here in Denver, I guess, with the Walmart family, the new owners of the Denver Broncos. Interesting. So did he take the job with the sense that he needed to rehabilitate Russell Wilson? How do you think he is approaching this season with Russ, Seth?
Well, I think he's invested in Russ being successful. And, I know that his comments to USA Today a month ago or so got a lot of attention, but it's clear that he thought that there was offensive malpractice that occurred with Russell Wilson. And he, wants to find ways to build an offense around Russell that give him the best chance to do what he does well. And I think that he wants him coming to the line quickly, getting the ball into his hands and making quick decisions. I think that last year you saw a lot of indecision on Russell Wilson, which was really atypical for most of his career. And I think that one of the things that Sean Payton has really tried to do is to get them to the line quickly. I think that last year, the Broncos, I think only 3 teams had more pre-snap penalties last year than the Broncos. He wants Russell Wilson getting to the line, diagnosing the defense, and snapping the ball. And that's one of the reasons why Payton has spent so much time this offseason and will spend so much time this year, not drawing up these elaborate plays, but trying to find ways to decode the defense before the snap to make things quicker and easier for Wilson.
Well, I know he mentioned it was malpractice on the part of Nathaniel Hackett in operating or having the operational manual all whacked for Russell Wilson. But, Russ had a part to play in that, and also the complete lack of control on a player who had run of the place in a way that few players want to have run of the place or get to have run of the place. Walk me through what Sean Payton had to say to you on that front. There's a soundbite that or a quote that really is making the rounds today.
Yeah.
Seth.
Well, he told me that early on he told Wilson, look, we got to back off Russell Inc. a little bit. And he said, can you stop effing kissing the babies? You're not running for public office. And, look, it's a classic Sean Payton thing. It's a message delivered through humor. You can hear a lot of Bill Parcells in there too.
Yeah.
But he likes Russell Wilson. And I think that he thinks that look, the team, and I think that it was not just Russell, but everybody got a little too excited about Russell Wilson last year. And from a franchise point of view, you can understand it. I mean, they had gone so long without a franchise quarterback that when they finally got one and they gave him that contract, yeah, they wanted to be excited and they wanted the fans to be excited. But all of this stuff, completely backfired. And I think that, one of the things that Sean Payton wanted Russell Wilson to do is to get off social media as much. You don't need to give people fodder out there. And we all remember last year that Wilson, he got mocked on a level that we've rarely seen for a superstar athlete in the social media era. I mean, it's continued into this year. The Arizona Cardinals, after a preseason game, made fun of him on their social media account. I mean, it's like this accepted practice to put Russell in his place. And so I think that Peyton didn't want to give the opponents any ammunition out there. And he wanted Russell to kind of come, earn his work, go about it quietly. And Russell Wilson he's had a good camp.
How has that landed on Russ? Because that does inform the entire Broncos season, in my mind. How is he taking this coaching from Sean Payton, Seth?
Well, right. So far, he's taking it great. Now, if the season gets off to a bad start and if they're losing and it's November and Russ is a key reason why, will Payton make a change? I think that's, a fair thing to contemplate. But a lot of this stuff didn't make it into the story, but I watched a lot of film of training camp practice with Sean Payton the week that they were practicing against the Rams. And we would watch offensive snaps where Wilson would throw the ball to receivers who were open and the ball would sail over their head. And if I didn't know better, I would have thought Wilson was just being inaccurate, when in fact, Wilson was throwing the ball exactly to where it was supposed to be thrown and the receivers weren't where they were supposed to be. So much of this stuff is predicated on trust and timing and reps. And it was a reminder for me that as much as we want to be able to diagnose football in the moment, you can't do it for most of the plays unless you know intent. Because if you were just watching those, you would just think that Russ was just completely inaccurate and was missing guys, when in fact he was throwing the ball to where they were supposed to go, and the receivers weren't running the version of the route correctly.
What's your sense on the Broncos buttoning that up in time to take on the Raiders Sunday, Seth?
Time?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there's injuries as well. There's a lot going on that we obviously knew that happened last year. That it's go time now, right? This conversation is over. It's now time to see the results.
It is go time. And, when I was with Sean Payton, his wife, Skylene, she was like, hey, you never talk to me about your day. And Sean was like, well, it's just training camp. But yeah, it isn't just training camp. And in fact, he knows that when you come in with the presence like he's come in on, where you're the program, you're the instrument for change, you're the device that everybody's counting on to change that team from a loser to a winner, it's all on your shoulders and it's tenuous and fragile. He often talks about how essential it was that when he got to the Saints, they started 3-0, not only because it helped convert the skeptical, but also because it gave everyone confidence. And, the Broncos opened with 2 games at home. Both games should be winnable. And, the pressure is on and he feels it. He knows that, if they go 0-2, look out, because it could be an ugly, ugly, ugly time in that building.
Seth Wickersham's ESPN senior writer, Seth Wickersham, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Great deep dive currently online with him reporting on Sean Payton. Let's talk about the Patriots here. The Kraft-Belichick relationship has been quite discussed over the last several months, and you literally wrote the book on the Kraft-Belichick relationship. As a matter of fact, over your left shoulder is the cover of that book. It's Better to Be Feared, the New England Patriots Dynasty in the Pursuit of Greatness. Where do you stand on the sense that Belichick is on a hot seat this year, Seth?
I think it's warm. It's my opinion that I think if the season ends and the trajectory of the franchise is clearly trending down, that I think Kraft would weigh making a move very, very, very hard and might be willing to. It's a different structure than Bill's had. Bill has always managed his staff as he's wanted to manage it. And this year it's been different. They did the press release with Gerard Mayo announcing a new role for him. They did a press release for Billy O'Brien announcing his presence. That's not what the Patriots usually do. And they've got an interesting dynamic where you have two assistant coaches who have kind of been empowered by the owner, and you have Bill, who obviously is used to, complete autonomy over all football matters. And I think that everybody is hoping this thing goes well. This season, I don't think that Robert Kraft wants Bill Belichick to break the all-time record for wins wearing another team's hoodie.
Nice.
But if they're not playing, if they do not have a good year, and clearly it looks like the franchise has hit a morass, I would not surprise me at all if Robert Kraft makes a move like that. I mean, it's just been a weird offseason. Belichick a couple months ago comes out and he talks about cash spending and how the Patriots are always at the bottom of the league for cash spending. And then I think Greg Bedard from the Boston Sports Journal goes to Kraft. Kraft says, well, we've always paid, we like finances and support and financial wherewithal has always been there for all football matters. Nobody can say that it hasn't. And then a couple of weeks later, Bill kind of backs off saying that cash spending isn't really indicative of, team success. Like I said, there's just little cracks that even the most disciplined football men like Kraft and Belichick seem to be slipping into.
And did you see Brady at the locker room door for the Raiders in the preseason, sending him out on the field, telling them to go win the game? Did you see that, Seth? It's just, and he said,
I think he said, go ruin their day, right?
Go ruin their day for preseason. Yeah. I mean, it's just what a fascinating aspect of what's going on with the Raiders. McDaniels is the coach. Brady's in ownership right now, right? Your colleague Don Van Natta was here in studio a couple of weeks ago saying the league is wringing their hands over John Gruden's court case making its way through. And then the Super Bowl is in Las Vegas this year in a season that starts tonight. I mean, Vegas is fascinating to me. I'm wondering where you stand with Brady and his post-playing career. That does appear to be over, right, Seth? It's over, correct, with Brady?
I think it's over.
Right?
It's weird. It's the first year that I've covered football since I graduated from Mizzou that Brady hasn't been in training camp. He graduated in 2000. I graduated from college in 2000 also. It's the first year. And it is weird not having him in there. He's just become such a fixture that you'd think it could go on forever. But yeah, things are a little weird in Vegas. I mean, you obviously saw what Chandler Jones put on social and then deleted. And I believe in Josh McDaniels as a head coach. I think that he's a really smart guy. I think that he has found ways to take the system that he's learned and adapt it into his own personality. But I'm worried for him that, he's just alienated so many star players there, and that his second stint as a head coach, will go south like it did in Denver.
And how about him relying on Jimmy G? Right? I mean, you can't make this up. You can't make. Honestly, did I just hit on how many chapters of that book that's behind your left shoulder? Did I just hit on, right, with the Vegas Raiders? It's crazy.
Frankly, I think I could write a whole other book about just the relationship between Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan. I mean, that will be a great 30 for 30 one day.
What do you got for me on that? Well, you got anything for me on that you're willing to share? I'm serious.
Well,
what do you think?
I think that. Look, that was a weird situation, right? The entire impetus of the trade. Now, I reported that Kraft pushed the trade on Bill. Remember, Bill was very invested in Jimmy G. Obviously, Kraft denied that, but Bill was very invested in Jimmy G. And after they traded him at the deadline in 2017 to the 49ers, remember the 49ers, Jimmy G wasn't on their radar. They were planning to go after Cousins. Bill kept texting Jimmy G after every win that year. And he ends up getting, the biggest contract at the time for any quarterback. And then, they go to the Super Bowl. They almost win. He's 3 yards from a spectacular game-winning touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. And I think that the relationships just got strained. Jimmy was struggling to stay upright. I think that the coaching staff wondered whether he had the will to win like Tom Brady does. Remember Kyle, when Brady left New England, he wanted to go to the 49ers. Like, he wouldn't have had a free agency tour. He would have gone there if they wanted him. And they ended up staying with Jimmy, and things cascaded from there. That COVID season was a bad year for them. They ended up getting relocated to Arizona for part of the season. Jimmy G's hurt. And the Rams get Stafford. The 49ers try to get Rodgers. He doesn't go anywhere. And, Kyle is looking at a division with the Rams and Stafford and Seahawks and Wilson and the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. And he trades this huge amount of capital up to get the third quarterback in the draft. And of course, then, Jimmy keeps ending up, being his starting quarterback somehow. And I think that the relationship there, didn't end on the best of terms and wasn't on the best of terms for a while. And I think that Jimmy found a team and a coach that I think believes in him in a way that he didn't always feel in San Francisco.
What a season that's going to kick off tonight. Seth Wickersham, thanks for the time right here. Great piece on Sean Payton. Good job again, and let's chat down the road.
Thanks, man. Always good to see you.
Yes, it's a must-read on Sean Payton, currently on all ESPN platforms. Senior writer Seth Wickersham here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.